So, as I said a little bit earlier, today we're going to be talking about illusions. And you see a lot of these on Facebook, you've seen this on the internet. But I wanted to talk about an optical illusion, which is not going to work if our, our projector is an illusion itself. But simply an illusion, an optical illusion, optical is something you see, obviously, is a visual trick. It's tricking you to thinking that it's something else when it's not. And one of the best illusions that I've seen, which I personally like, are those 3D artists who paint on the sidewalk, and they make 3D things, and it gives the people illusion that there's something there when there really isn't anything. It's just a sidewalk with chalk and great creativity. And so I'm going to ask, and we'll try to see if this will work, but I'm sure you've seen this before on the internet. But one of the things, okay, yeah, that's not going to work. Because, all you see is Batman and Robin over there, and then there's a guy. Really, you think that it's a, there you go, it might help a little bit, it might. Is it my eyes or it's really blurred? Because my eyes are also bad. But anyway, if you look at this on the internet, it really is just a sidewalk. But it looks like there's a big, the guy who's standing there. That's not an illusion, that's actually the guy sitting there by the ledge, but it's not really a ledge, but it's really a sidewalk. And if you go on this side as well, this guy is acting as if there's someone falling, but really there isn't anyone falling. It's just a 3D painting or drawing. Here's another one. All these people think that this guy is holding, whatever he's holding, it's an actual gold or whatever. But where he's standing, he's actually kneeling. And that's nothing but sidewalk. Then the next one, probably the last one I think I have. That it? I have one more, right? Same thing here. This kid thinks that, you look at him and you think that there's some sort of dip there where he's riding his skateboard through, and there's a boombox here from the 80s. Not really. This is just a sidewalk again. In fact, this is a parking lot. So that's what an illusion is. It distorts your senses. You're looking at something and you're going, is it really there? If you drive on the 40, those of you who have gone cross-country, I've driven that 40 from California all the way to the East Coast too many times. But there was one time that my sister and I were in the car and we were going. You guys remember my dad's car, the Celica? You guys remember the Celica? Yeah, so Jeff and I were driving there when we were young. We don't want to do that anymore. We're too old for that. So we were driving, and we were driving on the 40, and there's like, if you start going towards New Mexico, you see Albuquerque, but it's an illusion because you think that it's there and it's close, but really it's still so far away because that's the only thing you see. That's an example of an illusion. It distorts your senses, and it made us really hungry. I remember driving because it's like, oh my goodness, there's now something there, so we'll be able to eat something. Visual illusions or optical illusions are probably the most well-known because and easily understood. The emphasis on visual or optical illusion occurs because vision often dominates our senses. It's what we see. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the best of the senses. Of all the senses, I think the sight is always the one that we use a lot of. It dominates us. For example, when you're watching a ventriloquist, and my favorite ventriloquist is obviously, and I forgot his name. If Jeff was here, Dunham. Of course, Tim is here, so he knows. Jeff Dunham is a great ventriloquist, and what a ventriloquist does is that he moves the mouth and the arms of a puppet, and yet he speaks through the puppet. But if you look at him, he opens his mouth a little bit. Some of the best ventriloquists don't even open their mouths, and they can actually make a voice out of that. And when Jeff Dunham creates two, so he talks to two puppets and himself. It's such a wonder, the talent of this guy. But you and I will think that the voice is coming from the dummies. Because we see the dummy mouth the words, but it's what we see that gives us that illusion that they're talking when it's actually the one operating them that's making that sound. Here's another perfect illusion for all of you who live and work in Southern California. Freeways. You go through an overpass and you're about to enter the freeway, right? It gives you the illusion that it's moving, doesn't it? And then you get to the freeway and what happens? It stopped and you're wondering, what happened between the time I was on the overhead and went overhead? I'm thinking overhead, on the overpass, and now that I'm in the freeway, I'm on the freeway, it's not moving. It looked like it was moving before. Then you get stuck and you're like, oh, this is not what I thought it is. I wish we could test illusions, but really that defeats the purpose of the illusion, because illusions happen or are made to trick us. Well, in the Bible, there is something that tricks men and women like you. And they would go, the Bible is tricky? No, this guy is saying that whatever we think is good actually is an illusion. And some of you already know who I'm talking about, because he talked about this in his book, in his writings. And if you read his writings, you're going to feel that this guy is like, sighing a lot. You know what sighing is? What is a sigh in Tagalog? You are very good. Buntong hininga. Mahilig magbuntong hininga. Or, the whole book, you will feel that way. Those of you who have read through some of the words in Ecclesiastes, you will feel that way. Solomon is who I'm talking about. Tested the illusion of money. Tested the illusion of wealth. Tested the illusion of material things. And sometimes we can go, well, material things, that's why they're material, something you can touch. It's not an illusion. You can go outside and touch your car and say, this is not an illusion. I really have a nice car. I mean, you can go to the side of your house. It's like, this is not an illusion. This is really a nice house. But Solomon talks about those things as illusions. Luxuries to Solomon, luxuries to all of us. We think that it's wonderful, but it's actually an illusion. How do we know that? How does Solomon know that? One of the things, so we're not going to go to Ecclesiastes yet, but one of the things that describe, there's so many places in the Bible that describe the wealth that Solomon had, the wisdom, of course, that Solomon had, but one of the things that always gets me excited is the kind of provisions the king has in the castle or in wherever he lives. And these are, let me talk to you about daily provisions of Solomon during that time. So in 1 Kings chapter 4, verses 22 to 23, obviously if you have your Bibles with you, you'll be able to go there real quick. If you have your iPads with you, you'll be there quicker, probably. 1 Kings chapter 4, verses 22 to 23. And I know you cannot see the top part of the verse, but this is what it says. Talks about the daily provisions. If you look at your daily provisions, okay, just think about your daily provisions. If you buy a sack of rice, 20 pounds, how long does that last you? Anyone? Don't talk about my family because we go through that like crazy. A sack of rice, if I ask Ate Pilar will probably go through it in years. Yeah. How about the others? How many days do you go through, or weeks do you go through a sack of rice? 2 days. Okay, not my family, as I said. 3 weeks? 3 weeks? 2 months? A month? Okay, now you can tell who eats a lot of rice. Okay, 2 months or a month. Okay, these are your daily provisions. You got your rice, and you moms or whoever's talking about taking care of your daily budgets. You know exactly when the rice is going to run out and when you need to buy new rice. But here's Solomon. Solomon's daily provisions were 30 cores of fine flour and 60 cores of meal, 10 hev of stall-fed cattle, 20 of pasture-fed cattle, and 100 sheep and goats, as well as deer, gazelles, roebucks, and choice fowl. We're going to stop right there. 10 head of stall-fed cattle. He's got 2 kinds. He's got the grass-fed ones, and he's got the ones that are in the cattle. 20 of pasture-fed cattle. He's not done yet. And 100 sheep and goats, as well as deer, gazelles, roebucks, and choice fowl. If you talk about cores, and some people are like, what is a core? 30 cores equals to 185 bushels, and that equals to 6,475 liters. If that seems so magnanimous to you, think of this. 20,000 people would be needed to consume this much food every day. 20,000 people. And this is what Solomon gets in a day. Solomon experimented to see about the pleasures of life. He had all the pleasures of life. And he found happiness in there. Don't get me wrong. He did find happiness in there for a while. Happiness in our society is defined, in the American society, is defined as getting something, getting someone, or getting somewhere and saying, oh, I'm happy to get there. If you make X amount of money, we were talking about this yesterday because we were comparing, my mother and I were comparing how much we get charged for hair. And so don't tell Lerny this. So you know how much Lerny charges for hair. And my mom was saying, well, yeah, that he raised his prices. I'm going, well, there is this thing called, cost of living. Cost of living goes up, and he lives too, and so his cost of living went up, and so he has to charge more. It's not going to be the same all the time. But in our society, happiness is defined as getting something more than the cost of living increase, being over that and getting more than that, getting something, getting someone, and getting somewhere. If you make X amount of money a month, everyone says you will be happy at this level. If you get to where people are, if you look at the advertising for Corona beer, they always show that they're by the beach. They always show that they're in the shores of Mexico, somewhere really nice, where you don't have to worry about a thing. That you don't have to go to school and teach inmates. Okay, I was thinking about that. So you're thinking about those things, and you're going. If you get to that place where people are happily drinking their Coronas, you will be happy. That's what Corona and the manufacturer of Corona says to you. Or if you get that girl. A lot of you watch Channel 7, ABC, so you watch The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. I have no idea if those things are still on. Those things are still on, but that's exactly the concept of those shows. To get the girl, to get the Bachelorette, to get the Bachelor, and who is it who's gonna get it? And that is how we define happiness. We believe that the bachelor will get happiness if he gets the right girl. Or we believe the bachelorette will get the happiness if she gets the right guy. And so Solomon is thinking about these things and he's looking at it. And then in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, and this is where we're actually going to go. Of course, you're going to miss the top part again. Verses 1 to 3 of the second chapter of Ecclesiastes. Solomon is speaking, I thought in my heart, come now, and I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good. But that also proved to be meaningless. Then he goes, laughter, I said, is foolish, and what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine, embracing folly, my mind still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was worthwhile for men to do under heaven during the few days of their lives. And this is what Solomon is saying. I wanted to test the illusion. I want to see what this thing is all about. And then if you drop to verse 11 of the same chapter, this is his conclusion. This is his report. If someone asks you to make a report on happiness, just like what Solomon is doing, this is the conclusion that he got to. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done, and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. Think about the conclusions that Solomon had. First of all, everything was meaningless. Now, I don't know about you, but if you write a report and you form a conclusion and your conclusion is meaningless, you are not going to get an A in your report. You're not going to get an A in your paper. There's got to be some sort of meaning to what you found. But this is what Solomon is saying. Everything was meaningless. Everything that my hands have done, if I kind of push you back to chapter 2, verses 1 to 3, he said something there about still guiding me with wisdom. Okay, it's not like he lost his wisdom. He still had his wisdom. And so what he said is that all my hands had done, what I have told to achieve, and after doing that, what did he say? Everything was meaningless. A chasing after the wind. I don't know about you. Have you tried chasing wind? No, you're not going to win. First of all, you do not know where the wind is going, and you do not see the wind. So you cannot chase after a wind because that one is totally meaningless. He also said nothing was gained under the sun. Nothing was gained. And so if you are a person like me who always goes on a diet every single day, that's what I think I do. You know, I go on a diet, I try a new diet, and then I happily go on the I don't even remember what it's called, on the scale. Yes, that thing. Hate that thing. You go on the scale and you go, didn't lose anything, and probably gained something. And you know, I'm going, what is going on? You know, I'm not going to tell you everything that I've tried, but I've tried many things, and it's like, the only solution is death, I think. You know, go to heaven and no one is going to worry about health, no one's going to worry about weight and all that. But you know, you look at that and you see, going back to Solomon, he saw wealth, he saw pleasures, and all of these things, he said, were meaningless. They're just, in a way, illusions. And don't get me wrong, there is pleasure in drinking with your friends. I'm sure there is pleasure in collecting a huge salary. You get your paycheck every month, and if it's a huge amount there, I'm sure you're happy. You know, don't say, "Oh, I'm not happy. I'm getting so much money." You know, of course you're going to say, "Yes, I'm happy." Collecting a huge salary gives you pleasure. Going on fancy vacations, you know, not going to, if you go to Europe, you're actually going to go to a 4-star hotel, a 5-star hotel. You're not going to go to one of those little motels and bed and breakfast and little youth, what are those called? The youth hostels, yeah. Have you been to one of those? I've been to one of those, too many of those. So you're not going to go to that. But there is pleasure in going to a nice hotel and having fancy vacations. There's so much pleasure, I'm sure, in living in a 5-bedroom house where you're on the hills of Orange County or Chino where you can see some sort of view. This is supposed to give us satisfaction. The nice car outside, the nice house on the hill, the nice paycheck that you get every month. This should give us a lot of satisfaction. But according to Solomon, these are claims without substance. They're meaningless. In fact, they're empty. It's an illusion. It's a deceptive strategy which Satan has been marketing for many years, and it works for him. That's why he keeps working on that. We are in that deceptive strategy with him. Satan cons us with the illusion that we can get nicely with life without God. And that faces us with a challenge, doesn't it? Have we been able to avoid the same illusion? Because we can't. Are we chasing the illusion even though we know it gets us nowhere? Have we even avoided the illusion? You know, you come to church and you listen to what Pastor Jay says, which is, you know, what the Word of God says to us. And I'm going to be including myself in you. And we all leave this place and we go back to the illusion. We sit here and we go, I agree. Yes, you're right on, Pastor Jay. As soon as we leave this place, and that includes me, we're going to go, we're back in the illusion. We're back in the illusion because we go back to work, we go back to doing whatever we're doing, and we're going, I'm going to go for that illusion. If you read the book of Ecclesiastes all the way through, you, like Solomon, will conclude, or you will see Solomon conclude. And you will see Solomon say this, now that I've experienced all that I've experienced, I mean, I'm putting words in his mouth. I'm using my own words. But this is exactly what Solomon is saying. Now that I've experienced all that I've experienced, my best advice to you is, this is what Solomon says, to remember God while you're young, and don't travel down this road I've traveled. Again, he has nicer words than mine. So I'm going to say that again, the conclusion that Solomon came to. Now that I've experienced all that I've experienced, my best advice to you is to remember God while you're young. And all of you, if you're still here, You are alive. You're still young. And don't travel down this road I've traveled. Those of you who may not know, Solomon died a spiritually bankrupt person. All the women he had, all the riches he had, turned his heart away from God. If we looked at Jesus instead of Solomon, an entirely different picture is seen. Jesus would say, and Luke chapter 10, verse 27 says this. And so you might say, what a different conclusion from what Solomon had. Luke 10:27 from the NIV says this: love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind. And then he's not done yet. Love your neighbor as yourself. And you're going, Pastor Jay, that's kind of like not really coming together. Well, what Jesus is saying is this. You want to find real joy in life? You need the two kinds of love that leads to these two kinds of relationships. It's not more women, it's not more money, it's not the pleasures of life and a fancy vacations and a fancy house and a fancy car and an honest to goodness, good paying job. It's not that. A love that leads to a relationship to, first of all, with Him. And a love that leads to a relationship to one another. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, with all your mind means that every area of our life should be focused on God. We should allow God to be in that business. Nothing must be held back. But there's more. He wasn't done yet with that. He said, if you want to enjoy life, you also have to love who? Others. You still have to love others. It is impossible to have a good relationship with God and not have a relationship with your fellow men. When someone loves us, they look out for our best interests, even when it may mean denying us some pleasure for the moment. If I love someone, I'm going to do what's positive in bringing that person closer to the Lord. I'm also going to stop engaging in what I know to be wrong, because loving that person means that having that person or loving that person for what is best for the other person. Jesus gives us commandments not to hinder our fun. Because I'm sure at this point you're going, oh, great. Should I give up this? Should I give up that? Jesus gives us commandments not to hinder our fun, but to help us enjoy what's really important in life. The great tragedy of a human being is the sense of pride we all have, that we think we are far smarter than we truly are. Do you know people like that? Are you someone like that? I'm like that. I think I'm smarter than what I truly am. We deceive ourselves into thinking, I can handle it. There's a story of a young woman from England who won the lottery, and I'm sure there's so many stories like this, who won the lottery, and the price, the jackpot is 3 million pounds. Now nowadays, the pound is 1-to-1, right? My aunt's not here, but 1-to-1, 1 pound is a little bit like $1, unlike before. In 3 years, after winning 3 million pounds, in 3 years, she was down to 20,000 pounds with lots of debts to pay. And you're going, what? What happened there? She said she kept buying and buying and buying, and nothing is enough. She did not get any satisfaction, so she kept looking for it. Brand name clothes, brand name fancy cars, vacations, jewelry. And I think to myself, while I'm reading these stories, I think to myself, Lord, you don't have to give me 3 million pounds. Just give me 300,000 and I'll be happy, because I'll be able to buy a house, a small house, and I'll be able to I will find a way to enjoy and be satisfied. And some people might say, I don't even need $300,000. You might say, I just want 30,000. Some of you might say, I don't even need 30,000. I just need 3,000. And maybe some of you might say, I just want $3 to be able to get a drink. I think to myself, Lord, if you can just give me a little bit, I will find a way to enjoy and be satisfied. Lord, try me. He hasn't answered my prayer. Just try me. Just let me pay for this and let me pay for that and I'll be happy. And don't just say the same thing. We even throw in there something so honorable like this. Lord, just let me hit the jackpot and watch me give 10% to the church. And if you're not saying that, you better be saying it. Lord, just let me hit the jackpot and watch me give 10% to the church, and Vessels of Hope will just buy a new building, their own. No need to worry about expenses. No need to worry about, how are we going to make the rent? How are we going to make this? Here's the thing. Even if the Lord blesses us with everything our hearts desire, we will never get the joy and satisfaction because it is our heart's desire. A friend of mine said something like this: sure, you get to do what you like, sure, you get to have what you want, but are you going to be happy, essentially? Why can't we find happiness? Why can't this society find happiness in life? We got what we want. We got the house, we got the car, we got the money, we got the pleasures, we got the girl, we got the guy, we got the children. Solomon continues in chapter 6, verse 2, when he says, God gives a man wealth, possessions, and honor so that he lacks nothing his heart desires. But God does not enable him to enjoy them, and a stranger enjoys them instead. This is meaningless, a grievous evil. What a very negative way to look at things, but it's the truth. We are given wealth, possessions, and honor. So we lack nothing with our desires, but God does not enable us to enjoy them because there's something else is missing. The other day, and I'm going to finish it with this story. The other day, the correctional teachers had a meeting with the state financial advisor, and they gave us these calculators. And maybe some of you have seen this. It's like some people might say, here, Pastor Jay, you don't have to worry about calculating because all you have to do is slide this thing back and forth. I still don't understand how this thing works. I look in the back and I'm going, what is it? What you're supposed to pull here and you're supposed to pull there? I have no idea. So I pulled it out. Of course, I pulled it out completely, and it's an illusion because I have no idea what those numbers meant. But if you put it there on the right slots, apparently you can calculate how much you will get in retirement if you give something like this. And for those of us, I count myself there because for those of us who came to work for the state of California at an older age, I'm near retirement. How can we catch up? If you start working for a company or for anyone, the same company or the same employer since the very beginning, and they have some sort of a retirement plan, you will say that, oh my goodness, I'm getting all this and da-da-da and all that. But they said, all of you old people, and I'm sitting there going, okay. He goes, all of you old people, you can still catch up. So he was giving us hope. Knowing you probably won't get any more Social Security. I'm like, thank you. Because Social Security will run out. But you can probably catch up. And it dawned on me while he was talking, it dawned on me that number one, I'm old. And number two, it dawned on me that all this retirement can be planned. Any of your retirements can be planned so you can have a very comfortable retirement. When you get to your 60s, when I get to my 70s, I will have a comfortable retirement if I can just know how to do this thing. And I can figure out, what it is that I can plan. The guy who was talking to us had it all worked out, and that's the illusion. And I'm sitting there going, he's an illusion. If we plan our own plans, instead of putting God as a major factor in my equation, if I don't put God in my equation, all this is an illusion. It's an illusion to Pastor Jay to begin with. But if you tell me how to work this out, it's still going to be an illusion. Because God has the final say. When I was young, right after college, I planned where I'm going, what grad school I'm going to go to, what profession I'm going to get into, what career I'm going to have. And I made the choice of asking the Lord to be in charge. And in a way, that was a mistake. Because He made the choice for me. And all my plans changed. And I may not understand the way He did it. He did things up to now. But one thing I am sure of. If I just do things by myself, if I plan my life by myself, and whatever I have whatever I'm going to have is so, I think is so much better that I would have had all those things that I'm going to have, my choice, it's still not going to work. Because God is not involved in our decisions. All of these are illusions. So what if you say, but Pastor Jay, even though I have what I want, but I have what I want, it's great. Why am I still miserable? Why is that? Because even that which we choose for our pleasure has to also be given to the Lord, in order for God to give us satisfaction with it. In other words, money, material things, success will give us satisfaction and happiness only if it is done God's way. You recognize that everything you have worked for is going to be left behind. And I don't want to preach a sermon where you're all going to walk out of this place hopeless and totally depressed. But it's the truth. In other words, money, material things, success will give us satisfaction and happiness only if it is done God's way. You recognize that everything you have worked for is going to be left behind. But the only thing that's going to stand out is your relationship with God. It's your relationship with your spouse. It's your relationship with your children. Your relationship with your siblings. Your relationship with others. Is your family as important to you as making more money? Jesus came into this world for the sole purpose of putting us in a right relationship with Him, so that we can be right with God and we can be right with others. And some of you are listening to me right now and going, I don't want to think about that, Pastor Jay, because I'm young. And I have a whole career to look forward to. I have a whole developed profession to look before me, in front of me. Jesus came into this world for the sole purpose of putting us in a right relationship with God, so that we can be right with Him and right with others. He put it this way: the enemy comes only to kill and to destroy. I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Either we do things His way and live according to what He wants us to do, or we do things our way and suffer the consequences. Solomon, again, and we will end with his words. Everything is meaningless. Everything is an illusion. There is a choice to be made by you. You either choose the illusion, either I choose the illusion, or I choose reality. You either choose the illusion, or you choose the reality. May the Lord add His blessings to His message this morning.